Hey everybody, welcome to Fantasy R&R. This is your host Ryan,
And I'm Rob.
and today we'll be wandering around the diamond looking for Week 13
They
pickups.
call me the Wanderer, yeah, the Wanderer.
This is Fantasy with Rob and Ryan, Fantasy R&R.
And we will be starting out at catcher like we usually do. First guy I want to talk about, Rob, is Dalton Varsho, the Arizona Diamondbacks. With Carson Kelly going down with that fractured wrist, this might be somebody we're looking at as replacement. Take us through the statistics here.
Yeah, Dalton Varsho has been a pretty consistent catcher in the minors for Arizona. It looks like he's going to get a very long look. And with catcher just essentially being a wasteland this year in general, Dalton Varsho needs to be looked at. He's got power, he has some speed, and in most leagues, he should also have some outfield eligibility as well.
All right, next guy, Jorge Alfano on the Miami Marlins. Is this somebody we're looking at strictly as a catcher replacement for the week, or is this somebody who's viable at utility in those no-catcher leagues?
Similar to that of Varsho, Jorge Alfaro has power, has speed, and has been hitting for average this last month since coming off the IL with a hamstring injury. Again, catcher is essentially been a dart throw this year. Keep your eyes peeled on Jorge Alfaro. Has been a big prospect and was involved in the JT Realmuto trade with the Philadelphia Phillies. So give him a look if you're in need of help.
All right, and Ryan Jeffers on Minnesota, probably one of the least rostered players we'll be talking about today. Is this a diving deep thing for you?
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to be diving deep on Ryan Jeffers. That sounds disgusting, but need to take a look at him. He's got power, average, not so much, but he has got big-time power in a Minnesota Twins lineup that has been searching for a catcher as of recently. So take a look at Ryan Jeffers.
All right, so let's go up base real quick. Over to first base. We're going to talk about C.J. Cron, Colorado Rockies. Somebody who was actually rostered and dropped a lot at the beginning of the year. How are you feeling about him right now?
Yeah, there was a lot of hype of C.J. Cron signing with the Rockies, of course, with the thin air. In Colorado, he's got big-time power. The one thing for him, look and beware of the home road splits. He's hitting home runs at home and not doing much else on the road. Very similar to that of the Rockies in general, but hit a bunch of home runs over the weekend, can hit for a good bit of average, and I think is going to move his way up until about the middle of that lineup, potentially even batting cleanup here very shortly.
All right, next up, Bobby Bradley. Maybe somebody who's been on just a bit of a cold streak or maybe starting a cold streak, but with guys like Alonso and Yuli Gurriel and Rhys Hoskins all servicing at first base, if you're low on a first baseman, is Bobby Bradley somebody we can go after for a Week 13 pickup?
Yeah, for sure. The Cleveland Indians called him up. He's been a big-time prospect with Cleveland, came up and immediately started hitting home runs like you had said. Has been on a little bit of a cold streak recently. He's got a very bad strikeout problem, but hey, power's going to play everywhere in fantasy. So take a look at Bobby Bradley if you're in need of first base or power.
All right, 90 feet down the line, going down to second base. You're calling last call on somebody. Who's it going to be for this week?
Yeah, Detroit Tigers' Jonathan Schoop is not getting enough love. This guy is crushing the ball right now. Has been on a one-year deal, I believe, with Detroit. Did very well last year. Has been good. A majority of his career just seems to be overlooked. And just like anybody on any dying team come the trade deadline, Jonathan Schoop could be shipped out at the trade deadline. So get him while you can, and if he's available, snag him.
All right, next story here. Just a pair of guys out in Milwaukee. We're talking about Colton Wong and Luis Urias. We got Wong back from the IL recently. Rob, can you give us a rundown on what this situation is going to look like out in Milwaukee?
Luis Urias came over in the Trent Grisham trade with San Diego, and that has been looking like a bust trade up until recently, where Urias has been hitting home runs, been leading off a majority of the time for the Brewers. And Colton Wong, before hitting the IL, had been doing very serviceable. His mitt is going to play in the lineup, so you know he's going to be hitting. What happens to Urias going forward, we're not sure, but those are two guys you need to take a very close eye on.
We're going to steal third, real hard to do, but this is what we're talking about. Another diving deep, desperate situation here. Abraham Toro on the Houston Astros, only 5% rostered, 23 at-bats to his name in the MLB this season. What's going on with this guy, and do you see him as a viable pickup for Week 13?
Yeah, Toro's calling card really is average, and that is exactly what he's done since his call-up from Alex Bregman's IL stint. With a hamstring injury, Alex Bregman has zero timetable for return right now, so it looks like it's Toro's position. You're in need of average, and with Houston, who has just been crushing as of late with that potential lineup, I strongly suggest Abraham Toro for any lineup, especially let's just say you had Bregman. Toro would be a great replacement for him.
All right, and we also have a last call for third base, so sound the alarm. Who's your last call out there for everybody that needs a third baseman this week?
I've never been to India myself, but it seems that Jonathan India has found a home batting leadoff for a very potent Reds lineup for the Cincinnati Reds. Hit a couple homers, has the potential to steal some bags, and again, it looks like there's going to be plenty of runs to go around for Jonathan India going forward.
All right, so let's get to that shortstop position. Speaking of wandering around the diamond, we might have wanderlust for this next guy we're going to be talking about. Finally got the call. Wander Franco, 69% rostered in Yahoo leagues. I think that's up 8% from just this morning where I snagged him. Rob, give us the breakdown on Wander Franco and why he should be rostered in all leagues week 13.
Yeah, fantasy players rejoice. Wander Franco is up. We've been looking forward to this for a very long time. #1 prospect, tons of power, will be able to steal bases. I look at this guy as Juan Soto at shortstop. This guy has the potential to immediately hit the ground running in once again, a very potent Tampa Bay lineup, and Tampa Bay's making a run for it right now out in the AL East. Pick up Wander Franco where you can. I know Jared Kelenic came up and kind of fell flat. I don't think Wander Franco is going to have this problem and needs to be rostered everywhere. He's starting tomorrow, it appears, with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and to go along with that, guys like Bobby Witt, Kelenic, like you said, it doesn't matter if they come in and bust out. I mean, you want to be on top of this before that happens. That way, if they do hit the ground running, like you're saying, you've got the guy already. So you got that NA slot. Go out there, get Franco where you can, and go forward with that. Next, J.P. Crawford on the Seattle Mariners. Give us the rundown on him for this week.
Yeah, J.P. Crawford has always been a pretty good slap hitter. His power has been up recently, not stealing as many bags, but again, like Jonathan India, leading off for the Seattle Mariners. Get it where you can. Always love leadoff hitters in any lineup in the majors. J.P. Crawford needs to be rostered.
All right, so a little bit of position eligibility here. Miles Straw on the Houston Astros. You can get him in at shortstop. You can also play him at outfield, so he's a viable replacement for any injured players you might have. Why would somebody want to be adding him this week?
Yep, Miles Straw was a big breakout kind of candidate, knowing that he was going to have a full-time job out in Houston, known for his speed. He has elite speed. Started off the season very cold, but has been hitting as of lately and has been stealing. You can't steal first, but if you're on first base, you surely can steal second base, and that's what Miles Straw has been doing as of late. Get this guy when you're in need of stolen bases, who isn't this year. Look at Miles Straw, Houston Astros lineup that has just been tearing the cover off the ball.
Yet again, going out to, as we always say, the loneliest place in Little League, the outfield. Jesus Sanchez on Miami. This is a guy with huge power. In fact, I think he just knocked down a home run the other day against Chicago. What's your feeling on this guy with him only being 12% rostered as it stands?
Yeah, a lot of people are probably scared off that he's a Miami Marlin, but this guy has got prodigious power. This guy has power for days. This guy has the potential to, I believe, hit 20 to 25 bombs. With 2/3 left of the season out in Miami, could be a game changer. And Miami looks like they're taking things a little serious here right now with this call up. Get Jesus Sanchez where you can. I know he's an outfielder, and outfielders deep, but very, very potential good look on Jesus Sanchez going forward.
And we're actually going to be hitting some old names here. Let's start with the first one. Adam Duvall, Miami Marlins right now in the outfield. This is a guy that you're going to be relying solely on power. How do you feel about him?
Adam Duvall's calling card all his career has been power, no average, and he has not slowed down this year at all. Had kind of a mini re-breakout last year with the Atlanta Braves. This year it's continuing to do so out in Miami. He's hit 4 home runs over the weekend. That included 2 games with 2 home runs. Power, RBI, that's essentially what this guy's going to do for you. If you need the power, go get Duvall.
Jock Peterson, another familiar name for people out there. How are you feeling about him at this point where he's 39% rostered and probably hasn't been utilized for most of the season?
Kind of from the Duvall mold, if you will. Jock Peterson, though, is leading off for the Cubs, who has been hitting well this year. If you can sustain that bad average, he's got first and outfield eligibility in most leagues. Go take a look at Jock Peterson where need be.
All right, another guy you could replace some of your injured players with, or if you need a pop at this point in the season, Steven Duggar, San Francisco Giants. Rob, give us the rundown.
Yeah, it looks like the Giants might have struck gold again with another outfielder, Steven Duggar, who's been hitting for average. That's kind of been his calling card as of late. Has some power, has some speed. Go take a look at him. The Giants have been surprising people all season long, and that hasn't stopped short on Steven Duggar as well.
All right, another familiar name here, Kyle Schwarber. We might have talked about him a few times in the past, but kind of like, the Jock Peterson situation, hitting a lot of home runs, average not so much, but Schwarber is on the higher end of that, where he might even be competing for the home run title as it stands right now. I think he's day-to-day at the moment, not sure with what, but, is this somebody that you're going to keep your eye on to help you close out the season, or how do you feel about him?
Yeah, a third into the season, the guy's got 18 home runs and close to, I want to say, about 50 RBI, but he's got a full-time job out in Washington, so go get him where you need him.
Justin Upton on the Angels. 62% rostered, but still easier to find than Wander Franco. Tell us about him.
An old name doing the same old things. Justin Upton now since been batting leadoff, has been hitting home runs. Good, nice little table setter for Shohei Ohtani. Rendon will get back to doing what Rendon does once he stops getting injured so much, and then once Mike Trout's back, this Angels offense looks very, very potent going forward.
All right, and somebody who's not so rostered, 6% in Yahoo leagues as it stands, just hit a home run yesterday, Jonathan Daza of the Rockies. We all know how much you love Rockies. Why don't you give us the rundown on him?
Yeah, batting over 300, has some power, I believe has a little bit of speed, but this looks like this is kind of that Rockies way of doing things. They kind of just keep interjecting different lineups every game, but Daza continues to hit. Take a look at him, not an immediate ad, but definitely a deep dive, maybe on the watch list or whatnot. Don't forget Jonathan Daza's name.
Now, this is a diving deep as we go into starting pitchers. Colby Allard looks like he's dropped off a little bit of rostering this past week. Somebody you're still keeping your eye on?
Yeah, that more than likely has something to do with the stream start recently, but he's been pitching very well. Colby Allard was a big pitching prospect just a few years back. I want to say Atlanta Braves. But one kind of nick on him is the fact that he does play for a Texas offense that is just terrible. So we don't know how the run support will be, but Colby Allard seems to be doing really good things out there with the Rangers.
All right, anybody who was brave enough to start this guy in his last start, like me, was probably pretty pleased. Johan Oviedo, the Cardinals, only 4% roster, but up 2% from last week, probably because of this performance alone. Wasn't doing all that great up to that. I had to stream him. I've been decimated by injuries with Strasburg, Scherzer, list goes on. Are you going to be keeping your eye on this guy? Or you're just going to be laughing at me next week when he plays Detroit, or you think this is a perfect matchup and the perfect time to pick him up?
Another juicy matchup for Oviedo. I think you got to go ahead and pick this guy up. Cardinals pitching staff has been decimated with injuries, if I'm not mistaken, so I think this guy has all the chance in the world to continue to pitch, which sometimes in fantasy, that's all that matters, so go take a look at Johan Oviedo.
All right, and Chris Flexen, 15% rostered, up 6 from last week. Used this guy earlier in the year to mix results. You're thinking he's got a good matchup against the Rockies this week because they're away from home. Are you saying just add him this week, or maybe add him for the rest of the season, or you think this is merely a stream option for people?
Similarly to Oviedo, just pick these guys up and stream them where you can. Again, like you had said, the Rockies are really bad away from Coors Field, and Mariners, the T-Mobile Park is a very, very, it's a very pitcher's park. I don't know, Chris Flexen has looked good, like you said. It's been mixed results as of late, but maybe we're on to something here out in Seattle.
All right, let's move on to Eric Fedde, Washington Nationals. Just pitched a gem against the Mets not too long ago, pretty much averaging strikeout per inning. Didn't get the win, but are you hoping for good things going forward here?
Same thing. This is kind of a stream guy. We really are diving deep out, starting pitching land in the waiver wire, because a lot of these starting pitchers essentially have either been dumped many of times, which we've already talked about a couple of these guys, or they're really starting to show their stuff, and Fedde's one of those guys. Go pick him up where need be. Probably
a little bit more rostered for the Tampa Bay Rays, Shane McClanahan, but obviously still available out there. Did really well against Seattle. Is this maybe your top ad of the week for pitchers, or?
Yeah, I would kind of think so. Tampa has always had great arms in their pen and their starting pitching. With Tyler Glass now going out just last week, this guy's job's safe, so let's just continue to see what he does, and hopefully he just continues to impress as a starting pitcher for Tampa.
And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, JT Brubaker, he's averaging over a strikeout per inning and has under 3.80 ERA at this point during the season. I've been using him this whole time since you told me he might be worth a pickup. I feel like maybe this is somebody you add and you just roll with for the rest of the season if you're succumbing to some of these pitching injuries, correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. J2 Brubaker, little up and down, and then really starting to right the ship recently. Does pitch for Pittsburgh, which doesn't really help his cause, but a good pitcher is a good pitcher. I believe that's what we said about him just a few weeks ago when we suggested his ad.
Ross Stripling, Toronto Blue Jays, somebody I see on the waiver all the time, but I just haven't picked him up. Give me a reason why I could use him this week for Week 13.
That really has everything to do with Toronto's offense being as elite as it has this year, and he has been pitching very well. So, kind of a toss-up. I know where they're playing right now for their home games has been a little bit of a bandbox, but Ross Stripling seems to be doing some pretty good things in his career. He's always been a moderate, successful pitcher, and this year it looks like he's taking it up just a notch.
Recently got the save as we get into relief pitchers. Michael Fulmer of the Tigers, the aforementioned Tigers that usually struggle to get wins in the first place. Is he going to be worth hoping for saves on the Tigers?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in just the saves league, you got to have closers. Michael Fulmer just recently activated from the IL, and he's got 1 or 2 saves already. So go get him where he's been dropped. Michael Fulmer, Detroit Tigers.
And we've probably talked about him on this show before. Lucas Sims of the Reds. Looks like he's going to be the closer going forward. Another guy, I mean, do you feel like if you're in a saves and holds league, is he worth it? ERA, is he worth it? What are you looking for as your main attraction to going out and getting Lucas Sims?
Yeah, it essentially has everything to do with his strikeout to innings pitched ratio. I believe it's a 2-to-1 for strikeouts over innings pitched. That's always a great look, especially for anybody that's looking to be a closer. Their bullpen essentially has been a mess this year, and Lucas Sims seems to be gaining traction as the closer going forward out in Cincy.
All right, so any of you that wanted to strangle Diego Castillo the other day, like me, you're probably looking at players like this next guy, Hansel Robles, the Minnesota Twins. Rob, take us through this as our last player of the day.
Yeah, Robles was a pitcher for Anaheim last few years. The Twins went and picked him up. They've been having a very difficult time finding a concrete closer, and it seems like Hansel Robles has been running away with the job as of late. So if you want a dart throw as a potential closer, again, if you're in just a solely saves league, Hansel Robles is your guy. Minnesota Twins, go take a look at.
All right, guys, and that's going to do it for our Week 13 pickups for fantasy baseball. Keep your eyes out for one of my next Sports Bar episodes. In between our next episode, probably next week, where me and Rob come back to tell you our next ads for the next week of fantasy baseball. This was Fantasy R&R with Rob and Ryan. We'll see you next time.